Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, this is a unique coin that I'm going to cover here today. It is referred to as Request Network, REQ, and it's an interesting one because it's gone crazy bonkers, like about 400 or 500% in the last 2 or 3 days of trading, which is unlike something we normally see. I mean, we do see large gains in crypto, but this one's kind of like what, 20, 30x or whatever you want to call it based on your entry point, and it's pretty out of this world. And in other words, it's not something I normally like to invest in myself personally, but I am very interested to see what it looks like. So we'll take a look at this here. There's probably some new uncharted territory for us, just based on the fact that it doesn't seem like this is honoring any type of Bitcoin movement. It's kind of doing its own thing, which is always fascinating to me. But just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and always take ownership of your own trades. And if you're interested in what you learn here today, or more importantly, just in general, perhaps considering my trading habits, because I have more healthy, stable trading habits myself. I have about an 80% success rate overall. I share all my trades with my community members. Link in the description below for that. That is my Crypto Cash premium account. So reference that in your own time if you'd like to consider that. If not, that's okay. Learn what you can from this video here and hopefully check other ones out too, because I have a feeling that there's not going to be a lot of deep dives here because it's just a straight shot to the moon, and that isn't normally something that I like to cover. But thank you so much to my patrons for recommending I cover this, because I'm always interested in checking out new coins. All right, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Request Network. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first. Just so we can get a baseline of the market, we know exactly what's going on in the industry, so we can make an informed decision, because every good trader needs to look at kind of its competition, or the catalyst in this case, which is typically Bitcoin, before we jump on in, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that here. So first of all, we've got the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. Oh, and to preface, I use TradingView.com. A link in the description below if you'd like a discount or a free month for the paid version to see if you like it or not. Recommend that, of course, just because it's the best way to go, for lack of better terms. You want to be able to follow along or just do this on your own. It really makes a lot of sense to do that. I kind of I resisted it for a while, but it only gives you 2 indicators at a time unless you pay for it. So check it out, see if you like it. If not, that's okay too, but I have a link in the description below for that. But we use the moving averages here, first of all, on the 4-hour chart. We use this because of the simple fact that the industry leaders are utilizing the same thing. So if they're using it, we need to use it too, right? The bulls, the bears, everything in between is essentially controlling the market. They're using these indicators. Now the 50 is the orange line here, and the 200 is the purple line. These are the simple moving averages. They take the average of that time frame and essentially give you the average price. So right now, the average price over the last 50 days should be 43,718, whereas the prices above that, it's considered a support. Same thing with the 200-day simple moving average. Only difference is it's trending much lower and further behind, but it is known to as really strong, support level if and when we get there. Hopefully we don't come back down to 37 anytime soon, but great news is the price is still holding above potential support about 44,200. I drew this in here just recently because the last couple of candlesticks have closed above that. It's kind of creating a little bit of a support. Furthermore, we also have about 43,000 here. Or correction, 42,500. Sorry, that's 42.5. And we also have 46,500 up here. So there's a channel of about $4,000, whereas Bitcoin is kind of upper and lower channeling itself right now. So good news is price kind of slowly stabilizing here, and we might see a recovery back up to 46. All right, so that's kind of the state of Bitcoin right now at this point in time. Moving forward, looking at Ethereum, same exact situation. You could pretty much just repeat what I just said for Bitcoin, only with different support and resistance levels. We've got a support at about 2,900 that was tested like 10 times previously, so it's a strong support now. And we also have a support at about 2,400, and I believe up here at about, 3,500, roughly 3,600 is the next major support. Correction, next major resistance for Ethereum. So just keep that in mind. We're not there yet, but we could get there eventually. And we're about halfway there if you consider this the halfway point. All right, so that is Ethereum. Now, next up, we're going to take a look here at Request Network, of course. Oddly enough, this was a request from my community members. So that's what I wanted to cover it here, because I normally don't care about coins like this, but it is very interesting and appealing to see it take off so hard and so quick. Now, just to preface, there's usually always some type of fundamental catalyst that causes this kind of price action. It could be, somebody controlling the market. It could be a short squeeze, and there's a lot of people shorting this. But it's a little more than likely some kind of a fundamental catalyst. Could be networking, could be anything. But I know this is a request network. That's probably what it is, honestly, networking. But you get the gist, right? That's the kind of concept here I want to kind of point, because it's like, well, what are these anomalies? Well, a lot of them have reasons and purposes behind them. Regardless, we're not here for that speculation. We're here for the technical analysis. And honestly, analyzing technical charts like this can be, I wouldn't say daunting, but just it's unique at every angle, because sometimes that all we can really rely on is major support and resistance levels. So why don't we do that here in just a second? First of all, I want to note that the RSI is at 90, hovering at 97 for about 12 hours, which is insane. It's starting to taper off now, which is good. Because honestly, for anything to be able to happen here, we need to be able to get some sideways action, or likely going to be a retracement. Now, traditionally in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically also follows the same law. You need any type of significant increase. You take that distance and you cut it in half, and that's usually where it's going to retrace. So I'd venture to guess we have a pretty strong support level right in the middle zone here. So from 0.007 up to 0.43. It's basically, I don't know, somewhere right here. This is probably going to be a strong support level, about 24 cents, because that's almost splitting the difference, right? So I could pretty much just tell you right now, we have a support right around 24, 25 cents, just based on that sentiment alone. Now we'll look at some other things too. In fact, while we're on here, why don't we just take a quick look at the Fibonacci and just see kind of what it tells us here. Yep, right at about 25 cents. So go figure. Yeah, so I would say it's safe to presume that 25 cents would be a pretty strong support level, and that's really close to this point here. So that's kind of where we're at there. Now let's look at some previous support levels and resistance levels. This is obviously an all-time high. Nope, correction, it is not an all-time high. I misspoke. Wow, okay. So this guy I got all the way up to $1.25 back in 2018. So there's a good chance that this one could pump and keep going, just based on that sentiment alone, because it has a tendency of just taking off, obviously. So in that sense here, let's see if we can kind of, boy, sure died off for a long time. What in the heck happened? So yeah, that's not really worth marking. See if there's anything here. 40 cents. Yeah, it looks like it rejected right around one of the previous highs. So we can pretty much say that 40 cents was the previous high. Yeah, or one of the previous highs. Obviously not the all-time high, 125 was that, but we have somewhat of a resistance here. So let's mark that, and let's go ahead and mark 25 cents too, just before we move on. Just so we know kind of what we're dealing with in the next few days here. Okay, so we're going to be in a channel of 25 to 40 cents approximately, likely here soon. Again, just depends. It could continue taking off, because honestly, it's hard to say. It's had really strong momentum, but I'd be really surprised if it continued any much further, just based on the fact that RSI is so overextended that we shouldn't expect to see much more growth. But I could totally be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because that'd be awesome if it just keeps going. But generally speaking, that's kind of what we're looking at here. All right, so we got this here. Yep, let's just move this up here, because that 25.7 or 0.257 is more accurate. That's right there. Moving on also to the RSI on the 4-hour chart. Same situation, overextended, extremely high. Commonly, it's good to wait for the price to come back down to 70, and then consider exiting your position or selling or trimming your position. Honestly, with something like this, though, it's really hard to say. I recommend maybe setting a stop loss at about 25 cents if you're worried about this coming back down on you. But I don't think it's going to do that. Man, it's crazy. Yeah, so generally speaking, what you like to see is in a good bull run, just to kind of give you perspective here. Normally a bull run does one of these, right? A good one. A good bull run will do that. That's what this leads me to believe. This is some strong fundamental situation here, where it's just pushing the price up so fast, so quickly, that it's not able to honor that typical stepping pattern. Now we do have a small amount of that. I mean, it's coming up and coming over. So I mean, there's a chance it might do one of those, but it's hard to really say. So all in all, I would recommend highly you check out the fundamental, backing here and find out what happened either both now, but also in 2018 and see. Obviously, it's it's repeating the similar habits as it did before, but it's hard to really specify. Now, looking at the 1 hour chart, not much really to disseminate here. Normally, I'd look at the Ishimoku cloud, but I can guarantee it's well above that. So, if the price does go sideways, it'll probably test the cloud and probably maybe continue upwards. It does work as a support level, so recommend checking that out sometime. TD sequential, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if it's going to show us that we had exhaustion. Yeah, so you can kind of see here we count from 1 to 9, then it starts retracing back down, counts down to 5, sideways action, and then back up to 8. So hypothetically, we have 1 more hour worth of continuation before this will start to retrace. Okay, because the TD sequential is nice about telling you market exhaustion, and this is I mean, obviously it's ramped up pretty good, but it's basically at its 8th/9th hour, soon to start in 5 minutes. So honestly, at this point in time, I would say that we'll see 1 more hour before it starts to retrace. If it does retrace back down, we'll see it bounce off 25 and perhaps try again, or it may just go sideways for a little bit longer like it did here previously. It might do one of these and then continue back up, because cryptocurrency has a tendency of repeating itself. I'm not sure if you've noticed that or seen patterns before, but a lot of times if a pattern like this happens, it'll continue to repeat itself. So if you see up here, it kind of did that, and that. So like these are pretty consistent patterns. It goes up, retraces and consolidates concurrently, and then increases again and repeats that same process. So there's a good chance that if this retraces for just say, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours, we'll see it ramp back up and test this resistance of 40 cents. Okay, so it's hard to really give a prediction on something like this. If I were to just kind of throw it out there, I would say that this has, now that I know that if we look back here, it's got a tendency of ramping up out of nowhere and continuing that. I mean, if you look at this 1 week here, how much is that? In 1 week, we've seen a 475% increase, right? So it has potential. There's no doubt about it. So we're not in all-time high territory. We're actually in repeating its history territory. So there's a strong chance that this will continue up to about 125 again here soon. Again, I don't really think Bitcoin matters at this point because it took off regardless of how Bitcoin is performing. So I would just be very cautious, be careful on this one. Set stop limits as your profit continues to increase. Follow that with your stop limits. Be safe and be careful about it. But I would say that the likelihood of this retracing down to 25 cents is still there, but it's also probably more likely to continue its pattern that's been forming, as we can see here with these, the staircase pattern, kind of like a diagonal staircase. It's repeating the same pattern over and over, and they're getting more and more exaggerated. So it very well could just keep on continuing. That was an interesting one. I'm going to set some alerts and kind of see what's going on, pay close attention, and see what happens. Just make sure you don't get wrecked. Set your alerts and be very careful and just respect this coin, because obviously it's going crazy out of nowhere. And unless you know the fundamentals, you want to be careful. So set your stop limits. That's the main advice I could tell you. Whether or not it increases or decreases, as long as you take profit, that's the important thing. And I would venture to guess if you were invested in this one in the relative near future, or recent future rather, you'd probably be in the green and it'll be looking very good right now. So, best of luck. Check this out. Also, future reference, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I just want to recommend that you might check out my Patreon community there. I actually share all of my trades Monday through Sunday. I trade frequently, and I share them all with my community members, and I trade about 80% success rate overall. So if you're interested in that, checking that out, feel free to reference that. This is not an indication of how I normally trade. I normally don't touch something like this. It was a community member that asked me to cover this. So that's the reason I'm doing it. But I can tell you that I try to steer away from coins like these, and I like more safe coins that are going to make me money, that are volatile but not insane, insane potential, right? I'm more conservative, if that makes any sense. So thanks again for joining me here today. We'll go ahead and see you in the next video. You take good care of yourself. Thank you so much for your time.